This is just insane, what happened in Florida yesterday. I mean, this is just nuts. The governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, held a public meeting with his Dr. Ladapo, who is his Surgeon General, who is an ivermectin guy, right? He was a hydroxychloroquine guy, if I'm remembering correctly, and is a vaccine skeptic. And he's now Florida's Surgeon General. And DeSantis holds a meeting with him and says, quote, "The pharmaceutical industry has a notorious history of misleading the public for financial gain. So he's creating a grand jury, a special grand jury with subpoena power to look into the vaccines. Quote, the grand jury will probe the development, promotion, and distribution of vaccines purported to prevent COVID-19 infection, symptoms, and transmission." In fact, DeSantis, when the FDA authorized these mRNA vaccines for children under 5, Florida was the only state that didn't order any. Like DeSantis was like saying, screw the kids in Florida. To hell with the kids in Florida. Who cares about them? This is just insane. DeSantis, along with his Surgeon General, this is Eric Sarkisian is writing at Politico.com. Along with his Surgeon General, DeSantis has rejected vaccines for young children. In response to DeSantis, Sharon Castillo, a Pfizer spokesperson, wrote in an email that Pfizer's vaccine has been approved by regulatory agencies across the world. Surgeon General Ladapo also announced plans to launch a study on people who died of cardiovascular problems after they received the vaccine. He released a study earlier, a so-called study, looking at heart issues and the vaccine. This was in October, that basically the entire medical community said this is just a BS study. This means absolutely nothing. And he was one of these. Ladapo, the Surgeon General for Florida, he was one of the guys, these 20 so-called medical experts who signed a petition in June of last year, June of 2021, a year and a half ago, asking the CDC not to give final authorization to the vaccines from Moderna and Pfizer. Now, why is this such a big deal? It's a big deal because more Republicans than Democrats are dying from COVID, and it's because they're not getting vaccinated. It's just that simple. If you're vaccinated, and most importantly, if you've been vaccinated within the previous 5 or 6 months and you get COVID, your odds of getting long COVID are dramatically decreased, and your odds of dying from COVID are very, very low. Your odds of hospitalization are very low. Obviously, there's confounding, things. If you're very elderly, if you're frail, if you're on an immune suppressant drug, if you're going to chemotherapy or things like that crush your immune system, then, the vaccine's going to help, but it's not quite the wonder worker that it is for, healthy, normal people, under 80. But there are still 70 million Americans who have not yet even gotten their first dose of a COVID vaccine. 70 million. So this group these researchers looked at pandemic mortality and excess deaths in 2 states. They pulled, because they wanted to get good solid numbers. They did Ohio and Florida. Florida, interestingly enough, Ron DeSantis land. And they examined the 2017 voter registration records for Ohio and Florida, along with the deaths of 577,659 people. Over 500,000 people who died who were over 25 years old between January 2018 and December 2021, which spans the entire pandemic, or most of the pandemic. And here's what they found. From March 2020 to December 2021, now that's when we didn't have a vaccine, but we did have masks and lockdowns. Average excess death rates were 76% higher among Republicans than Democrats. That grew to 95% more likely to die if you were a Republican than a Democrat between March 2020 and March 2021. And then 153% difference after April 5th, when all adults in America were eligible for the COVID-19 vaccines. 153% difference. 153% more Republicans are dying from COVID right now than are Democrats. It's insane that Ron DeSantis and the Republican Party want to politicize.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
That they want to politicize a pandemic. I mean, this is terrible.